ahead and start looking at this, guys. We are doing the practice final today. That means everything that you are going to learn in pre-algebra, you've learned it. We are at the end, guys. That is so exciting. I'm just really proud of you all. So let's go ahead and look here at our first page. This is our practice final. It'll be exactly what our final tomorrow looks like. The only thing that is different is the numbers in the problems. So for numbers 1 and 2, we have something that we haven't seen in a very long time. We've got polynomials. Okay, so your directions are going to tell you to simplify these polynomials by either adding or subtracting. So if we look at, let's do number 1 first. Number 1, is this an addition problem or a subtraction problem? It's subtraction. So do any of you remember when we are subtracting a polynomial, what do we need to do first? This is something we only do with subtraction. We change something. What are we're going to use this negative sign. Yes, we don't like to subtract polynomials, so we want to turn this into a plus. How do we cancel a negative? You guys remember the process that we do? So let's do a little review. Whenever I have a negative number, to get it into a positive number, I multiply by a negative. So to multiply this minus by a negative to make it a plus, we need to multiply everything else in here by a negative. We're distributing the negative first. You guys remember that? Yeah. So our first step here, let's make a little guide to the side. Step 1, distribute the negative. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this minus and I'm going to draw arrows to my 3x squared. I'm going to draw an arrow from this minus or this negative to minus 4x. And I'm going to draw an arrow to plus 5. So when I multiply a number by a negative, what happens to the sign of that number? It can become positive. If it starts as a negative, like the negative 4x, that would become positive 4x. What if I start with a positive? It becomes a negative. So all that happens here is we turn the minus to a plus, and every term inside the parentheses, you're going to change the sign to the opposite. So positive 3x squared, what does that become? Negative. Yes, negative 3x squared. And we have minus 4x. What does that become? Plus 4x. Good. And then we have plus 5. What happens there? Yeah, negative 5 or minus 5. Okay, so we distributed the negative. All we do for that is change the minus to a plus and change the sign of all my terms inside this parentheses here. Okay, before we move on, do we have any questions or uncertainty about just this first part? Okay, all right, we ready to go forward then? Yes. Okay, so once I've written out my second polynomial here, what else do I need to do before continuing? Yes, we want to keep things as organized and as perfectly lined up as possible. So let's bring this first polynomial down so that they're on the same level. I've got 6x squared plus 5x, and we don't change anything in this first one, we just bring it down, plus 12. And now we've got an addition problem, plus negative 3x squared plus 4x minus 5. Okay, do you guys remember, now that we have an addition problem, what do you think we should do next?
Like the like terms, take
Yes.
the 6x squared plus the negative 3x squared.
Uh-huh, that's right. So this is where I would really recommend getting some colors so that you can see the difference on your paper about what you're doing here. I'm gonna do, I guess, these three, pink, blue, and green. And I am going to do some sort of symbols or grouping to show which terms go together. So I've got 6x squared. Where's my other x squared? Yes, I've got a negative 3x squared. So these go together. Remember this, guys? What's next? Yeah, I've got a positive 5x. What's that go with? Positive 4x. Good. And last but not least, what are my last two terms?
Positive 12.
Uh-huh, positive 12 and?
Negative 5.
Negative 5. Good. Okay. So our second step, what we just did there, is we grouped our like terms. So that's step 2. First we distribute the negative, then we group our like terms. All right, any questions about that step? Everybody feel good about it? Okay, great. So now that we know which terms go with each other, what should we do next? Yeah, we want to put those terms together. We kind of want to rearrange the polynomials so that the terms that are like go right beside each other. So I have 6x squared plus negative 3x squared. How could I write that? 6x squared. Yes, remember when we add a negative, that's just subtracting. So we can just put 6x squared minus 3x squared. Is everybody okay with that? Awesome. So here is that. And what's next? Uh-huh, so we've got plus 5x. And then what's my other x I'm putting on there?
4x.
Yes, plus 4x. And last but not least, I've got my plus 12 and my minus 5. Okay. Everybody see where we are now? Good. Okay, we're at the last step now. It's not as bad as we remember. I bet you guys this probably feels a little easier than the first time around. Now we just have to solve that problem. We've grouped our like terms. Now we're going to officially combine them. So I'm going to write for my third step, combine like terms. And then I'm going to say in parentheses, that's adding and subtracting. So when we group them, we're just putting them beside each other. When we combine them, that's the actual adding and subtracting there. Okay. So let's work this out. What is my answer for my x squareds?
27x.
How'd you get 27x? So remember, the x squared is just a variable. We're just looking at the numbers in front. I've got 6x squared minus 3x squared. We're just doing 6 minus 3.
Yeah.
We're just adding and subtracting. That's it. We're just reading it exactly how it is. So these x squareds, I think they confuse people sometimes. We don't know what x is. So we can't square it. We're just leaving it attached. So really, I'm just doing 6 minus 3. And what's that? 3. And you got to bring down your x squared, because that's our variable. Okay, so everybody see how we got the 3x squared? Good. What's next?
5 plus 4.
Yeah, 5 plus 4 is 9. 9x, good. And last but not least, I've got 12 minus 5. What is that? 7. And is it a positive 7 or a negative 7? Positive, good. So all right, plus 7. And guys, that's our answer. That's it. That is our answer. So we circle it. Please circle your answers. All right. Any questions about number 1? How do we feel about number 1 on like a scale of 1 to 10?
10.
You feel like a 10? Good. And you know what? After we go through this practice final, what I'm thinking we'll do is if we've got some extra time, we can do more examples of whatever problems we're not feeling so confident on. Okay, let's look at number 2. We are doing the same thing. We are adding polynomials, but this one's different than the first one. What's different about it? Yeah, it's already addition. So do we need to do step 1, distribute the negative?
No.
No, we don't. There's no negative here or minus sign. There's nothing to distribute. So we can go ahead to step 2 and group our like terms. So let's figure out what we're grouping here. I'm going to start with my first term. I have 3x squared. What's that going to go with? Good. Plus 4x squared. And what's next? 4x plus 2x. And last one is 2 to the negative 1. Good. Okay, so same thing we did above. I'm just going to have you write out the polynomials in a different order, where you put 3x plus 4x, or sorry, x squared plus x squared. Then you put your x's, then you put your non-variable numbers. So let's write that out. 3x squared plus 4x squared plus 4x plus 2x plus 2 minus 1. Okay, I'm going to wait for everybody to get to this point. You guys let me know when you're ready. And does everybody understand how we got to here?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Once we're all to here, what do we do next? Yeah, we just add or subtract based off of whatever sign is in front of our numbers and our terms here. So what is 3x squared plus 4x squared?
7x squared.
Yeah, 7x squared. What's next?
4x plus 2x.
Yeah, 4x plus 2x, that's plus 6x. Good job, guys. And last but not least,
Plus 2 minus 1.
yeah, 2 minus 1 is 1, so plus 1. And that's your answer. That's it. So we circle it. Please circle your answer. Okay. Do we have any questions about these?
Too fast.
A little fast? I'll wait for you. I'll let you get caught up.
It's a refreshment.
I know, it's been a while. Been a while since we did these. Now, same as on the practice final. On your final, there's just going to be 2 of them. And I put them at the beginning so y'all could knock them out. Get them done.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, before we move on, any questions at all about polynomials?
Fastest.
Yeah. These are tricky. We feel okay about them? Okay. If at the end we still want to do some more practice on those, we can absolutely do that. If not, then for now, let's move on to numbers 3 and 4. Here's where we go back to Unit 2. We're solving equations here. We're doing the equation solving for n. So, whenever we are solving equations, what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind, or the rules that we follow? Yeah, we've got like the order of operations to keep in mind. Yes, so we're doing things backwards when we solve for a variable. Remember the word inverse? Inverse. So we're doing things in opposite order, and we're doing opposite operations. So if I had a +8, I would do what? Yeah, I would do -8 or a -8. So let's make that little chart to the side before we start of our inverse operations, just as a reminder. And if you don't feel like you need this, you don't have to write it, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. So we're going to do addition and multiplication. And what is the opposite of addition? Yeah, subtraction or minus. And what is the opposite of multiplication? Division. Good. So here's a little key for us. And then let's talk about the order of operations. So when we're solving for n, you guys remember what we do first? Which operation do we do first? Multiplication and division, or addition and subtraction?
Addition and subtraction.
Yes, we do it backwards. We're doing undo addition and subtraction first. Then we undo our multiplication and our division. Unless we have those exception problems, like if we have distribution or a fraction. Okay, so now that we've got those steps written out, let's look at number 3. What should we do first for this problem?
Subtract 8.
Yes, I want to subtract 8 from both sides. My 8s will cancel. And what should I do next? Good. Bring down -4n equals, what's 24 minus 8? 16. Okay. Now I have a whole new equation. -4n equals 16. What's my next step? Yes. What am I dividing by?
4.
-4. Good. -4 on both sides. And my -4's will cancel. So you guys tell me, what do I do next? Bring down that n equals 16 divided by -4. What is that? -4. Remember, a positive divided by a negative gives us a negative. Different signs gives you a negative answer. Same signs gives you a positive answer. All right. Any questions about that one at all? Okay. We feel good about it? Good. Ready for 4? What do we do first? Yes, subtract 5 from both sides. Then what? Yeah, my 5's cancel. N over 3. Oh, we don't need the plus anymore because we got rid of that 5, remember? That's all right. And if it helps to remember that, sometimes instead of just crossing off your canceling the 5s out once, it might be nice to do it a second time to show that that plus is also gone. Same with like this plus 8 over here. So it might help to cross off the sign too. Okay, so we brought down n over 3 equals, and then what's 10 minus 5? 5. Very good. What's our last step? Yes, multiply by 3 on both sides. My 3's cancel, so I'm left with what? Equals 15. Good job, guys. Okay, that is the first page. That's the first page. Any questions before we move on to page 2? Okay, let's do it. Moving on, page 2. We're going to have a couple more equations here. These are going to be the equations with our exceptions. Okay, I've got n plus 4, all of that being divided by 5 equals 3. And then my next one, I've got a distribution problem. Let's look at number 5 first. What do I need to do here to begin? Yes, I need to multiply by 5. And where else do I multiply by 5? Yes, for some reason, whenever we do this type of problem, I see so many people forget to do it on both sides. Do not forget to do it on both sides. So my 5's will cancel, and I'm left with n plus 4 equals 15. Okay, what happens next? Good. Subtract 4 from both sides. And n equals what? 11. Perfect. And then you circle your answer. Awesome. Okay, we feel good about that one? Good. Okay, let's look at number 6. I have 3 times the entire quantity. Negative 4 times n minus 4 is equal to 24. What should I do here first? Yes, we want to distribute first. We cannot touch anything inside the parentheses until we get rid of it. So when we distribute, what operation are we doing? Multiplication. Good. So what is 3 times negative 4n? Yes, negative 12n. And what is 3 times negative 4? Yeah, negative 12. So now I have negative 12n minus 12. What do I do next? Yeah, bring down equals 24. Now we can solve it like normal. So what do we do first? Yeah, let's add 12 to get rid of that minus 12. And that negative 12 and that plus 12 cancel. And then what do we do next? Yeah, 24 plus 12, what is that? 36. And we'll go ahead and bring everything down. Equals, and we still have negative 12n. So what's our last step? Divide. But what are we dividing by? Good. Negative 12. And that is going to cancel our negative 12s. So we'll be left with n is equal to what? I heard 3 and I heard negative 3. Which one is it? Negative 3. Good. Good, good, good. All right. Questions about number 6?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so when you distribute a positive number to a negative number, it stays negative?
Yes, yes. So the only way to change a negative to a positive is when you multiply 2 negatives. Because those negatives, they cancel each other out. All right. Okay, and we can go through that in a little more in depth if you want Do you guys want a quick little review on those negative multiplication rules?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. So this will take like 5 seconds. I'm going to write it out to the side. So here is a quick and easy guide. If I have, and this is the same for multiplication and division, okay? So even though I'm just going to write a multiplication sign, same rules for division. So what if I multiply a positive number times a positive number? Am I going to get a positive answer or a negative answer? Positive, right. There's no negatives there, so nothing can be negative. It's going to have to stay positive. What about a negative times a negative? Yeah, this is going to give us also a positive answer. So whenever we have two negatives, here's how I like to think of it. I'm multiplying both, so I'm going to bring this negative over, and then I'm going to bring this other negative over. And I don't want to write it beside each other, so I'm going to stack them on top. It's like they come together to become a plus. Those negatives cancel each other out. So anytime I have the same sign and I'm multiplying or dividing, meaning I have two positive numbers or two negative numbers, I'm going to always get a positive answer. The only way we'll get a negative answer is like this. There's two scenarios in which you'll get a negative answer. That is only going to be if we multiply a positive by a negative. That's going to give you a negative. Or a negative times a positive. That's also going to give you a negative. So, same signs gives you positive. Even if both of the signs are negative, if they're the same, it gives you a positive answer. Different signs give you negative. Does that clear it up a little better?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so there's that little key. If you guys are writing that down, I'm happy to give you a second. Let you copy it down. And we'll move on just when everybody's ready. And I appreciate you asking that question. Really, guys, I love it when you ask questions because odds are somebody else is thinking the same thing and just doesn't want to say it. So it helps everyone when you ask. So thank you. Right. Well, you are not the only one. I promise you that. Negatives are tricky to kind of grasp. Okay, I'll give you guys a little more time. Okay, you guys ready? All right, I'll move that. Let's move on to the next section in our practice final. This is all about inequalities. We just did this recently. So for number 7, we'll start there first. It says that we need to solve and graph the inequalities. So before we can graph it, we need to figure out our value for n. So how are we going to solve this? Yes, we got to start just like with our equations. I've got parentheses, so I need to distribute. Okay, so what's my next step? I drew my arrows. Now what?
6 times 4.
What's 6 times 4? 24. And then what? Good. Plus 6n. And what should I do next? Yes, bring down the rest of the inequality. I've got less than or equal to negative 30. Now guys, I want to point this out. On your practice final, whenever you're using this as a guide on your final, please do not just look at the signs on the numbers and copy it to your final, because the sign here might be different than number 7 on your actual final. Okay, it's going to be very similar numbers, but the sign might be different. So I need you to still remember what each of those signs look like. And if anybody wants to review those, I'm happy to. Okay, you guys just let me know once we finish these. So now I've got 24 plus 6n is less than or equal to negative 30. What do I do next? Yes, we've got plus 24. Let's do minus 24 on both sides. All right, so my 24s are gone. Now, whenever you do negative 30 minus 24, be careful. It's not the same thing as 30 minus 24. Let me know what you get for that. Yes, negative 54. If anybody is not getting that answer, let me know and we can go over it. Negative 30 minus 24. You got negative 54. Good, good. Awesome. So we'll bring down negative 54. Okay, what do we do now? Yes, we've got 6 times n. Let's divide by 6. Okay, my 6's cancel, and I'll be left with n is less than or equal to negative 54 divided by 6. Negative 9. And that is our answer. N is less than or equal to negative 9. So there's the first part of number 7. Second part, what do I need to do with this answer? Yes, we want to go ahead and start graphing this. So first, we will circle our tick mark. What am I going to label my tick mark with? Negative 9. Good. Yes. Why am I going to color this circle in? Because it's equal to. Good. Less than or equal to. So I'm going to color it in. Now, guys, same thing as what I told you when we took the inequalities quiz. Please make your answers very obvious to me. I don't want to have to guess if it's an open or a closed circle. So be confident about your answer and make them big and clear to me. Now, what direction do we shade? To the left. Good. To the left. And that is it for number 7. That's not so bad. You guys got this. Okay, you guys ready for number 8? Okay, what's our first step? Plus 3. Good. On both sides. Okay. Negative 3 plus 3, those cancel. Bring down 5n. Greater than 15. Okay, now what do I do? Good, divide by 5 on both sides. And my 5's will cancel, so I'm left with n is greater than 3. Awesome. N is greater than 3. So help me draw this graph, guys. What do I do first? Now, I'm going to encourage you, actually. I love that we're going right ahead and circling it. Something that I saw a couple people do, not a lot of you, but everybody would say, oh, I already got my 3. I'm going to circle it and I'm going to shade it. Write your number above the tick mark first, because that's the step that you're going to forget and you're going to lose points on it, because this graph is not accurate if it's not labeled with a number. You have to have your number on the graph. So before you even do your circle, I would put your number down on there. Now I'll do my circle. Not shaded. Good. Why is it not shaded? Yeah, it's just greater than. It's not equal to. In what direction do I shade? To the plus sign, to the right. Good job. Awesome. Okay, any questions about those? Good. Okay, we ready for number 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we have a compound inequality here. Same thing I'm going to tell you on your final. Doesn't mean that you're going to get another and. You might have an or compound inequality. So just keep in mind what the difference is there. Do you guys need any sort of, I guess, refresher on the difference between an and inequality and an or inequality? Or you guys feel good about that? Okay, y'all feel okay? Let's go ahead and work on this one. If you decide that you want us to review any of it, just shout at me, let me know. We can absolutely do it. So first we need to solve these, and then we graph them. So let's go ahead and just work left to right. I've got negative 10 plus 5n is less than or equal to 15. What's my first step? Good, plus 10 on both sides. My 10s will cancel. So I'm left with 5 times n is less than or equal to 15 plus 10, 25. Good. And what's next? Ooh, yeah, we want to use our inverse operations. This is a multiplication problem, but to get rid of that, we divide. Good. So divide by 5 on both sides. And that leaves us with n is less than or equal to what? 5. Good. Okay, now should I write my number on my graph yet?
No.
Nope. We don't want to do it just yet. We want to make sure that we know what the other answer is, because if the next answer is a smaller number than 5, it needs to go first. We put our numbers in order from least to greatest on a number line. Okay, so let's work on the second one. What's my first step?
5.
Yeah, we want to subtract 5 since we have a positive 5 there. And this is another one where you need to pay attention to the signs. When I have negative 75 and I subtract 5 from it, remember our negative numbers behave totally opposite. So what answer am I going to get for that? Negative 80. Good. When I subtract from a negative number, it's really just like adding a negative. So negative 80. Did everybody get negative 80 there? Good. So then we want to bring everything down. 8 times n is greater than negative 80. And what should we do lastly? Yeah, divide by 8 on both sides. So n is greater than what? Negative 10. Good. And that's our answer for the second one. So now that we have both numbers, how do we graph this?
5 is going down to the left.
You mean to the right?
To the right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we're going to flip-flop these. N is greater than negative 10. That number comes first because negative 10 is smaller than 5. So we're going to label this tick mark with negative 10 and the second one with 5. Now we need to decide our circles. So I'm going to circle my tick marks. And let's look at negative 10. Yeah, we don't shade that one. There's no equal underneath the greater than. And what direction are we going to shade from negative 10?
To the right.
To the right, towards 5. So I can already tell because 5 is pointing the opposite way. We're going to be shading in between these. Now 5, is that circle open or shaded?
Shade.
Shaded. Good, because that one could be equal. And that's our graph, guys. There we go. Any questions on that one? Okay, you guys ready for the next page? We're already halfway there. Halfway there. And this is your last page that you're actually being graded on. The last page is bonus questions. So it's not going to be so bad. Okay, so on page 3, we have a graph here. with a couple of coordinates. I have points A, B, C, D, and E, and I want you to name them with their correct coordinates. So before we do this, let's remind ourselves, in a coordinate, what comes first, the x value or the y value? The x. So I would write this as a key for yourself. X comes first, and so that means what comes next? Y. So whenever we are looking at a point on a graph, we want to first see where it lines up with the x-axis. And which one is the x-axis?
I mean, the middle, I'm sorry.
You're right, though. You're right, though. Yeah, so our x-axis goes from left to right, right here. I'm just going to kind of highlight that. And our y-axis goes up and down. So whenever we are looking at our x and y axis, we want to make sure that it's lining up with the right one. So Jenny, you already said it. For point A, our x value is 2. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Good. What's our y value for A? 5. Oh, I heard negative 5.
Sorry, I looked at the thing.
Oh, did you see the tick mark?
Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, so just remember, as we go up, positive numbers, down, negative numbers, right, positive numbers, left, negative numbers. It's just like, it's just 2 number lines that are stacked on top of each other. So for A, we got 2, 5. How about B? What's our X? 5. And what's our Y? Negative 2. Good job. How about C? What's our X? Yes, negative 3. And what's our Y for C? 5. Okay, am I going too fast? You need me to slow down or anything, guys? We good? Okay. How about D? Negative 3 is our X, perfect. And what's our Y? Negative 4. Gosh, you guys are awesome. And E, last one. Perfect. Man, I didn't mean to make so many negative 3s. Negative 3 and 2. Perfect. Okay. I know, I guess so, man. All right, so those are our coordinates. Good job, guys. And here is a little bit of what we did yesterday. This is brand new. See if you guys remember this. I'm going to have you identify the slope and the y-intercept of the linear equation. So off to the side, so you have this on your final, let's make a little key to help us remember what this means. So when we have a linear equation, that's an equation that we can graph as a line. And we write those in this form. Y equals mx plus b. And we know that our m means something and our b means something. Do you guys remember what we covered yesterday? What our m is and what our b is? Yes, the m, or whatever number is attached to x, that's our slope. And what's our b? Yeah, it's the y-intercept. It's where the line touches the y-axis. Okay, so in this equation, y equals 2x plus 3. What is our slope?
2x.
So not the x, just 2. If you put 2x, it won't be correct. It needs to just be 2. Perfect. Yes, just the number. And what's our y-intercept? 3. That's it, guys. That's your whole final. That's it. Other than the bonus questions on the back, which we'll go over too. Before we go over the bonus questions, do we have any questions or concerns on this page that we just did? No? Okay. Let's do the back. For your bonus page, you have up to 6 possible bonus points you can earn here, okay? here's where those points come from. So you are going to identify the slope and the y-intercept of the equations, 1 point each for correct answers. So if you put the right slope, that's a bonus point. If you put the right y-intercept, that's a bonus point. Okay, so automatically, if you guys are using this and you know how to identify those, that's automatically like 4 bonus points. The other 2 are going to come from graphing these lines. So, do we remember what we look at when we graph a line? Do you remember kind of what the first step is, what our starting point is going to be? Yeah, well, ooh, yes, so that's our slope. Let's write that down. I'm going to write M for slope equals, we do need that, rise, and I'm going to draw an arrow up and down so we remember that means up or down depending on if it's positive or negative, over run. And our run always goes to the right. Okay. So before we do get into graphing, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's identify our slope and y-intercept. So what is the slope of y equals 3/4 x minus 2? 3/4. That's the slope, absolutely. So my slope is 3/4. Now here is where this page, this last bonus page, is why they're bonus points. This is where it gets a little tricky. I'm going to want you to name your y-intercept a little differently. Instead of just writing, first of all, what is our y-intercept? -2. Yep, it's -2, so that means it's negative. So pay attention to your signs. Instead of just writing -2, I'm going to want you to write it as a coordinate. Okay, and let me explain what that means. So our y-intercept is -2. So where is our first point going to be?
On the Y.
On the y-axis at what number?
It's gonna be coming down to
-2. So it'll be right here. So let's say this is a coordinate I want you to name. This is what point? What's my x value and my y value? Say it again. Yes, what is my x value for this point and what's my y value? I want to think of this as a coordinate. 0 is my x, because see, I don't go to the right or to the left, I'm right in the middle. So my x is 0. What's my y? -2. So instead of writing -2 as your y-intercept, I want you to write it as a coordinate, 0, -2. And if you forget, you can just remember this, the y-intercept, you're putting your -2 in the y spot for your coordinate. The other one is just going to be 0, always. Any of your intercepts, you put the number in for that variable, the other one is a 0. All right, so to get the full bonus point, I'll still give you half a point if you write -2, but if you write it as a coordinate, you'll get the full bonus point there. Okay, so we have our first point graphed right here, our y-intercept. How do we get a second point? You guys remember? Say it again.
4.
What's 4?
We're gonna go up 3.
So
No, you're gonna go up 3, sorry.
that's okay. We're using our slope to find the second point. So remember, our slope is rise over run. So our rise is 3. And our run is what? 4. Now remember, our starting point is the dot we just made, the y-intercept. Do not start from 0. We want to start from the point we just made, because the slope is only useful if you put it up against a point on the line. I know this point is on the line because I took it from the equation. If I start at 0, I don't even know if this point is included in the line. I'm going to draw something totally wrong.
Stay with the y.
Yes, this is your starting point, is the y-intercept. So now I'm going to use my rise over run. I'll go up 3, and let me label this so y'all can see it a little easier. I'll go up 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There's my rise. And you don't have to label your rise over run. I'm just going to do it to show you a little better. And what's my run? 4. So I'm going to go over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so where does my second point go? Yeah, right at the end of my run. So it's going to be at x is 4 and y is 1. Okay, so there's my second point. And all I got to do now is connect the dots. That's it. Connect the dots.
I have a question.
Yes.
I got lost at the very beginning when you first put that point.
Uh-huh. The y-intercept?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go back then. So whenever we have a linear equation, that means we have an equation where we have y equals m, or our slope, x, so our m here is 3/4, and then it's plus b. In this case, our plus b is actually minus 2, and the b in an equation is our y-intercept. That's just, we only know that through definition. That's just the way that they formatted these equations. So whenever we see whatever that number is at the end of the equation, whether it be minus 2, plus 5, this one here is plus 3, whatever that number is, that is going to be where we put our first point on the y-axis. Because the y-intercept is just where the line is touching the y-axis. Does that make sense?
Yes, I got confused because I didn't have the numbers. I'm used to
Ah.
the number. So I'm like, wait a minute, where's negative?
Yes,
I
and
went
you know what,
this
guys?
way Instead of going down. And
Yes.
I keep forgetting that the y, when you go up and down is the negative. It goes negative.
Yes.
1, 2. Okay.
And if it helps, you can label your numbers.
Okay.
Draw 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, -1, -2. So here's the -2 where we put our first point.
Okay.
-3, -4. Yeah, whatever helps. Absolutely. Okay, any other questions on this bonus problem? I'm happy to answer them. You guys ready for the next one then? Looks like I still see some people writing for this one. I'll give you guys a minute to finish. So take your time, because this is the last thing we got. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the last problem here. I have y equals -2/3 x plus 5. What is my slope? Good. -2/3. My whole slope. I've got a negative slope here. -2/3. And what is my y-intercept? Yeah, I've got plus 5 here. So my y-intercept is going to be at y is 5. How am I going to write that as a coordinate? 0, 5. Good. So remember, here's my x value. That comes first. My y value comes second. So what I can remember is that if my y-intercept is 5, I'm going to write 5 in the y spot of the coordinate, and the other one's just going to be 0. Because we're not going anywhere in the x direction at all. We're staying on the y line, the y-axis. So now that we have a coordinate for our y-intercept, let's graph that coordinate. So we're going to go over 0. So we're staying on the y-axis. And where do we go from here?
5.
Up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. There is our y-intercept, and it's our starting point. That's our starting point. So remember, when we use slope to find a second point, am I going to start counting from this point or from 0? From the point. Very good. We want the slope to be connected to that first point because this point is part of the line. So where do I go from here? How do I find a next point?
We know the -2 is the rise, and 3 is
Yeah. We're going to use -2 as our rise. And 3 is our run. So if my rise is -2, where do I go? Yes, you're going to go down 2 instead of up. So -1, -2, going right there. Let me label that. My rise was -2. And what is my run? 3. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3. And where is my second coordinate going to go? Where?
Up there on your line.
At the end of my run, yes. Right when you finish your rise and run, it just goes right at the end of the run. And this point would be 3 in my x spot and 3 in my y spot. 3, 3. Okay, now we just connect the dots. And that's our lines. Yes. If you don't have one at your desk, there's some all over the tables, and there's a bin of rulers here at the front of the room. Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, the rulers help.
Layla, could you go back up?
Uh-huh.
Stop, so I can copy. Okay, yeah.
Here, let me do this. You guys see all that? There we go. Okay, guys, it is 10:10, so we do still have 15 minutes if we want to go over anything else. How do we feel?
Can we do another one of these?
Yeah, absolutely we can.
Just to get it in my.
Okay, you need me to leave this up here for a minute? You guys still writing? Okay, I'm gonna pause this and I'm gonna get out some stuff that we can practice. All right, so we are going to graph the line of an equation. Let's do y equals 2/3 x minus 1. So we need to draw our x-axis and our y-axis so that we have a place to graph that line. Here's my y. Here's my x. And here are some tick marks.
the bottom boxes.
Say it again.
The bottom box.
The bottom box.
You're graphing the bottom box, I'm sorry.
I'm graphing it right here. It don't matter where you put it though.
Okay.
This is just for practice. You can put it in the bottom if you want. Okay. So, alright, I've got my graph drawn. You guys need a second to finish yours? I'm going to say yes. It looks like you guys are writing. I'll give you a minute to catch up. Let's see, something under here. Okay. All right, and you know what? If it helps, let's label our numbers. Let's just go up to 4 on each, because I think that's all we'll need. Well, then you're an overachiever.
I am
It's
not.
perfect. Yes, you are. You're doing good in here, Lisa. You're doing real good. It's a compliment, I promise.
Okay, good.
It is. That's a good thing. If you're an overachiever, it just means you're achieving better than expected. Like it means you're above what you would, what you're expected to do, which is only go to 4 and you went to 5, so that's great. All right. Okay, guys. So let's go ahead and figure out where our starting point is going to be. What number am I going to look at to find that out?
-1.
Yes, I have -1. So where am I going to put my first point? Let's make the coordinate for this. Let's get into the habit of that. Yeah, so here, let's make the coordinate first. What's my x going to be? This is the y-intercept. Yes, my x is always going to be 0 for the y-intercept because I'm not going any way left or right. And what's my y value? -1. So let's go ahead and plot our first point at 0 for x. So that means we don't move. We just stay here. And our y is -1. So we'll go down 1 right here. This is our first point. And I know it's a little tough to see. I'm going to circle that in orange so you can see where it came from. Okay. What should we do next? Yes, let's make sure we understand where that came from. I know you got it. So we're going to find our slope next, which is 2/3. No, that's perfect, Jenny. I love it. I'm just going to go slow in case we need a little extra practice here. So remember, our slope is also known as rise over run. So now, Jenny, how far up are we going to go? 2. That's right. Our rise is 2. Yes, we want to start at your y-intercept. Do not start at 0. So from -1, we're going to go up 2. I'm going to use blue for that because my y values. I'm going to go up 1, 2. And that lands us at y = 1 right here. So here's my rise. 2. And what's my run? 3. Good. So I'm going to go over how many? 3. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead. Finish what you were saying, Jenny. You're right. Yes. That's where your next point goes. Right at the end of the run. Right there. Then you connect the dots. There you go. Good, guys. Very, very good. And we always need to put arrows on the ends of our lines, because these go, yes, they go on and on forever. They are infinite. Okay. Any questions about that? Do you guys want to run through another one, or you feel good about it? One more? Okay, let's do one with a negative slope. How about that? Let's try y equals negative, let's do negative 3/4 x plus 2. So we'll draw our x and y axis again. I always like whenever we get to the graphing part of math. I just think it's relaxing, drawing the graph out and doing all the little parts. Okay. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I've got my numbers on there. I'm going to label my x and y axis. All right, I'll give you guys a minute to get to that point with me. All right. Where are we going to start? Plus 2. I'm going to circle that. So if our y-intercept is 2, what's the coordinate? 0, 2. Perfect. 0, 2. So I'm going to go over 0, up 2. Right there. I'm going to circle that again. Okay. What will I do next? Yeah, I'm going to identify my slope. I have negative 3/4. And we're going to use rise over run. So my rise is negative 3. Good. And what's my run? 4. Okay. So I know how far up and down I'm going to go. I know how far over I'm going to go. What's my starting point? Say it again. At my first point. Good. I already made a 2. 0, 2. My y-intercept. That is always your starting point. So we're going to rise negative 3 from this point, 2. So if I rise negative 3, what direction do I go? Down. Good. So I'll go down 1, 2, 3. My rise was negative 3. And what's my run? 4. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. And our second point just goes right at the end of our run. And we'll connect the dots. There you go. There's the graph of that line. Okay, guys. All right, it is 10:22. We've got 3 minutes left that I have with you guys. In those 3 minutes, is there anything else that you want to go over, or are you feeling pretty good?
Pretty good.
Feeling pretty good? Okay, guys. This is your final. We will be taking that tomorrow. All right? I think y'all are going to do amazing. Remember, this is, I think it's worth the same amount of points as the last quiz that you took. So it's not going to be one of these make or break grades. If you don't do well on the final, you're not going to fail the class. The worst thing that could possibly happen is you don't take the final at all, and then your grade would drop by just 1 letter grade. So if you take the final, I know you're going to at least get 50%. You're going to be fine. All of you will pass. You are all in excellent shape. I think you all have A's right now.
And this is our credit or whatever.
Yeah, this is our credit. Once you take the final, you are done with pre-algebra. That's it. I'm proud of you guys. All right, I'm going to end that recording.